April 4, 2004. What does it feel like when the walls around you breathe smoke, the floor shakes with explosions, and you realize the dead might be closer than the living? On that scorching April morning in Iraq, during the First Battle of Fallujah, Captain Seth Moulton of the United States Marine Corps stepped into a nightmare that would permanently carve itself into American war history, not as a myth or legend, but as a flesh-and-blood officer forced to make impossible decisions under fire, leading exhausted Marines through streets that felt cursed, where every doorway whispered death and every rooftop hid unseen eyes, because Fallujah was not just a city. It was a living trap, its narrow alleys funneling bullets like veins carrying poison, and Moulton, a young infantry officer, was responsible for dozens of men who trusted him with their lives, while insurgents blended into civilians, turning mosques, homes, and schools into firing positions, creating a battlefield where the rules of war felt warped and survival itself seemed temporary. And as his unit pushed forward, the sounds were relentless. AK-47 fire snapping overhead, RPGs screaming through the air, mortars thudding into concrete, each explosion leaving behind a silence so thick it felt supernatural, the kind of silence where Marines whispered that the city was haunted not by ghosts, but by the screams of those already lost. And in one brutal engagement, his platoon was pinned down, unable to move forward or retreat, trapped in a kill zone where insurgents fired from multiple angles, forcing Moulton to crawl through debris, blood, and shattered glass to coordinate fire, dragging wounded Marines to cover while the smell of cordite and burning flesh filled the air, a smell veterans say never leaves you. And though he was not a medic, he became one in those moments, applying pressure to wounds, shouting orders through chaos, watching young men shake from shock while trying to keep their eyes open. Because in Fallujah, if you closed your eyes, you might never open them again, and horror crept in quietly when night fell. Because darkness in Fallujah was worse than daylight, insurgents moving unseen, bodies lying in streets too dangerous to recover, dogs circling the dead, and whispers among Marines about shapes moving where no one should be. Because prolonged combat warps the mind, and fear becomes a constant companion, not loud but intimate, sitting beside you in the rubble. And during one night operation, Moulton's unit entered a building believed to be cleared, only to discover insurgents hiding inside walls and ceilings, bursting out at close range, turning hallways into slaughter corridors where muzzle flashes lit faces for fractions of seconds before bodies fell. And afterward, as dawn rose over a city scarred beyond recognition, Marines found civilian belongings scattered among weapons, children's shoes next to rocket launchers, reminders that this war had no clean lines, no clear heroes or villains, only consequences. And Moulton later described the crushing moral weight of leadership, knowing every order could save lives or end them, knowing that hesitation could be fatal, and that courage often meant acting while terrified. And yet, despite the horror, there was heroism stitched into every moment, Marines shielding each other from blasts, carrying wounded comrades under fire, refusing to leave anyone behind even as bullets struck the walls inches from their heads. And one event that haunted many involved a wounded insurgent left screaming in a street no one could reach without risking more deaths, his cries echoing through the ruins all night, a sound Marines later said followed them even after leaving Fallujah, because war doesn't end when the shooting stops, it follows you home. And after Fallujah, Seth Moulton would return to Iraq multiple times, enduring the same cycle of fear, responsibility, and sacrifice, eventually earning the Bronze Star for his leadership under fire. But medals cannot erase memories of blood pooling on concrete or the hollow stare of a Marine who has seen too much. And when his service ended, Moulton carried those experiences into civilian life, haunted but driven, determined that the voices of those who fought and those who never returned would not be ignored, because Fallujah was not just a battle, it was a warning etched in ash and bone about the true cost of war. And today, when people debate wars from safe distances, they rarely imagine the terror of being young, responsible for lives, trapped in a city where death felt intelligent and patient, waiting behind every wall, So the question remains, and it should unsettle anyone who hears it. If you were standing in those streets of Fallujah in April 2004, surrounded by smoke, screams, and shadows that didn't move like men, would you have had the courage to keep leading forward, or would the city have broken you too?